Hey, and welcome to the Toadstead. Well, what you're looking at here is our back garden, and it's almost embarrassing because we really haven't done much since we planted it. But, you know, got to do work in rotation. And what we got here is some corn right in front of you here. And out in the back there's some peas, sweet peas. And then the rest of this down here, got part of it weeded. That's all from here up to maybe, I guess where you can see the little waterer, is Virginia peanuts. And then there's kind of a mixture. Our cedar wasn't always as precise as we'd like it to be. So there's a bit of corn and peanuts right there. But yeah, we really need to get down here, get this make it look better, make it more healthy for the plants. But what I brought you down here to show you is it's almost hard to do this because of all the devastation going on up in the Midwest, and we even had some people close to us get flooded out a week or so, 2 weeks ago. We had some pretty impressive rains that I personally hadn't seen since the last named storm we had come through. But we knew that we were going to have an erosion problem. So what we had planned on doing, I hope it's showing up for you to see, but the entire plot is somewhat kicked off. The closer part to you is kicked off to your left. It doesn't follow the property line, which I'm standing on, because our hope was when the water came in from this direction and came in from this direction, which are both uphill. Our property is actually the beginning of a pretty good sized bayou, or at least one of the tributaries of a pretty decent sized bayou. So we have a lot of water come through here. We drain a lot of land, I guess the better way to put it. This little spot right here is probably the drain point for 50-70 acres. A goodly part of it comes right here, and we kind of knew it was going to happen, so we put our rows at this angle, hoping that we could direct the water. All right, I know, maybe silly sounding, but that's what we did, and quite frankly, it worked. Just not exactly how we planned, right? Isn't that the way it always goes? You can see these first few rows. Now, there's nothing planted in this lower quarter. Again, we wanted to wait for a few rains to see what would happen before we wasted seed here. And I'm glad we did, because as you can see, we were given a pretty, well, as you know if you're watching the news, we were given a pretty torrential rain for a test. And it came down, you can see right here where it began to erode. And then, well, rows over here with the peanuts on it, you know, a couple inches tall. That row is about a foot deep. That was where the majority of the water came. Some of it spilled over, and you can see there's 5 or 6 rows there that are about anywhere from 8 inches to a foot deep. And this is where the water mostly ran. I'm cool with that. You know, I can say, thank you for showing me where the rows are supposed to be. So now I know. And as far as erosion loss, we had some. Now the grass grows fast here, so it's not as distinct as it was just even a week ago. And the water runs down that direction. You can see where it left some of the lighter sands behind. And off it went. And my property line with my neighbor, I can't do this on camera, you can see these trees. It's just on the other side of those trees. So that land over there was 2 feet, 2.5, almost 3 feet underwater for about 20 minutes. Because, of course, one thing about the Toadstead, it drains fast. The soil retention doesn't seem to be too bad. One of the things we're doing with this garden and our other garden is pretty much watching how the land drains. Now I'm standing here, I don't know, it's probably 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and our morning we do water with just minimally with these little back and forth thingies. And I don't know if you can tell, but you can see some little dry spots here and there. And then you can see how here at the end, you know, water runs downhill. The peanuts got the majority of it. And then there's just a little bit of water runoff. Just a little. That tells me that probably watered just a little bit too much for this area. If it's not staying in the garden, and yeah, I know water runs downhill, but you know, whatever runs out of the garden is just feeding the grass I gotta mow. So our area gets average of 60 inches a year. So we probably even shouldn't have to water, but with the exception of our deluge, and since then, it hasn't rained at all. So the corn, you can see where the middle of the corn is growing a little taller. That's probably because it's closer to the sprinkler. But I'm not going to call it bad. First time this has been ever. This is probably the first man-planted stuff on this property, and well, probably since they planted the tongue trees decades and decades ago, when this used to be a big area for tongue nuts, which I'm going to do a video on that later. We still have a few tongue trees floating around here, but that's for the fall. So this is the lower garden, and we're going to come out here and just get this probably weeded in the next day or so. Just clean it up, give the plants the best chance. But I don't know if I told y'all on video or not, this wasn't designed to be a garden. It's a garden this year because we're experimenting with a little bit larger crops and how we're going to use them and preserve them. And we hope someday this back acre will support at least one, if not two, cattle. And part of that plan is to begin to plant cover crops. And I'll get into that a whole lot more later on in the summer when we begin to do it. But the bottom line is we want to till in, or basically spend a bunch of time, not a bunch, whatever's necessary to get a really good cover crop growing here. And then if it works the way we want it to, we'll let it spread out over more of the property just to help support the cow or cows that we hope to have back here. And these are steers, these are meat. This has nothing to do with milking. We're not going there. But just to grow hamburgers in the backyard. You know, we figure we're growing corn. We're trying the peanuts for a little extra money and because we like peanuts and peanut butter. But we really like meat. And if you can grow peanuts in the backyard, maybe you can grow hamburgers. All right. Well, there's your update for the bottom. Thanks for coming along for the ride. We'll see you next time around.